Commander Vel'tarus Khaen had crushed 17 civilizations before he ever heard the word human. The Hesperan Combine fell in 9 days. The Dras Collective, supposedly the most militarized species in the Spiral Arm, lasted 11 hours once his fleet breached their outer defense ring. He had watched empires that called themselves eternal collapse into refugee convoys and surrender broadcasts, watched their leaders kneel and beg in 40 different languages for the same thing. Mercy he had no instructions to give. So when the Tier 7 compliance directive arrived ordering the subjugation of a species classified as Class-2 Pre-Spaceflight, a species that, according to the surveillance drones, had only just begun arguing with each other about whether to put names on rockets, Vel'tarus felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Boredom. "Show me the planet," he said, and his adjutant, a narrow-skulled Ithran named Sauce, pulled up the feed without comment. Sauce never commented. It was one of the reasons Vel'tarus kept him close. The image rotated above the command table, a blue-white marble, oceans dominating, continents scattered like an afterthought. Beautiful, in the indifferent way of things too young to know they were beautiful. The species called it Earth. They called themselves human, though the translation matrices flagged at least 4,000 competing words for the concept, depending on which patch of the surface you asked. Population estimate: 8.1 billion. Currently, no unified government. No fleet. No orbital weapons platforms of significance. Their most advanced military aircraft cannot exit the mesosphere. Sauce paused, the closest he came to expressing an opinion. They have not detected us. Then we will introduce ourselves properly. Vel'tarus allowed himself something almost like pleasure. A clean conquest, low resistance, full compliance within the week. The Combine's appetite for resource-rich, biologically diverse worlds was endless, and Earth's atmospheric composition alone would fetch a fortune in terraforming contracts back home. Bring the fleet out of stealth. Let them see us before we begin. It was meant to be theater. A show of force so total that resistance would seem not just futile but embarrassing. The kind of psychological capitulation that saved months of actual fighting. Vel'tarus had done it a dozen times. The trick was scale. Let the primitives see something too large to argue with, and they argued with nothing at all. 412 vessels dropped out of stealth in low orbit, arranged in the formation his fleet called the Closing Hand. Warships the size of small moons. Troop carriers that could deploy 1 million soldiers inside an hour. The kind of fleet that had ended wars on other worlds before a single shot was fired, simply by existing in the sky, where people could look up and see it. The Vel'tarus expected panic. Mass communications chatter, military scrambling, governments collapsing into each other in terrified alliance. He had seen it before. The specific flavor of dread a species exhibited in the seconds after it understood it was no longer the most dangerous thing on its own planet. What he got instead was silence. Not the silence of paralysis. The silence of a held breath. Sauce. Comms traffic. Down 40% in the last 6 minutes, Commander. Sauce tilted his head, an Ithran gesture of confusion. Their broadcast networks have gone quiet. Not jammed. Not disrupted. Simply quiet. They're hiding. Possibly. Sauce did not sound convinced, and that, more than anything, made the hair along Vel'tarus's spine rise. A useless evolutionary leftover his species had never quite managed to breed out. Commander, I am also reading a significant drop in civilian movement across major population centers. Streets, transit hubs, public spaces, all emptying. Evacuation. Too fast for evacuation, and too organized. Vel'tarus studied the readouts, irritation prickling under his boredom. He had run the opening minutes of Conquest enough times to know the rhythm of fear, and this wasn't it. There was no scrambling, no chaos, no signal of a species realizing it was prey. Just an entire civilization going still all at once, like an animal that had heard a sound in the grass and decided, for reasons of its own, not to run. Send the standard declaration, he ordered. Full visual and audio broadcast, all frequencies. Let them know what they're looking at. The message went out in their language, translated, formatted, polished by 3 centuries of conquest into something almost gentle. Surrender now and your species will be preserved as a productive member of the Combine. Resist, and you will not be given a second offer. It was the same message that had ended 6 wars before they began. The response took 4 minutes to arrive, which was already strange. 4 minutes was an eternity in a moment like this. An eternity for chaos to organize itself, for someone to find the courage to answer. When it finally came, it wasn't routed through any government channel his ship recognized. It came through a frequency his systems had no record of ever using. A frequency that, according to every scan his fleet had run on approach, did not exist on this planet's technological registry at all. Sassa's narrow face went very still as the translation resolved. "Commander," he said slowly, "I don't think that came from the surface." Vel'tarus turned. "Explain." "The origin point is..." Sas checked the readout twice, as if expecting it to correct itself. It was a single human face, rendered in perfect clarity on every screen across 412 ships simultaneously. A feat that, by every law of signal theory Vel'tarus understood, required either physical access to his fleet's internal networks or a level of transmission precision no Class 2 species had ever demonstrated. The face was unremarkable. A woman, middle-aged by human standards, dark eyes, no visible insignia of rank. She did not look frightened. She did not look angry. She looked, Vel'tarus thought with a discomfort he couldn't name, patient, the way a teacher looks at a student who has confidently gotten the wrong answer. "You're early," she said. The translation matrix rendered it flatly, but something in her tone survived the conversion anyway. "We expected another 60 years before anyone found us. You've saved everyone a lot of waiting. Identify yourself," Vel'tarus said, though he was no longer certain who exactly he was addressing, a government, a military, something else entirely. "You are addressing Fleet Commander Vel'tarus Khaen of the Combine. You will stand down and prepare your species for orderly transition." "I know who you are," she said. "We've known who you are for a while now. Commander of the 3rd Subjugation Fleet. 17 confirmed conquests. You favor an opening show of force followed by a 48-hour compliance window before escalation. A pause. You're very good at your job." The bridge had gone silent in a different way now. Not the readiness silence of a crew expecting combat, but something closer to dread, the kind that spreads when soldiers who have never lost start to suspect they might. "How?" Vel'tarus said carefully. "Do you have access to combined fleet records?" "We didn't take them from you," the woman said. "We've had them for longer than you'd believe. Longer than your empire has technically existed, depending on how you count it." She tilted her head slightly. "You're not the first fleet to come here, Commander. You're just the first one anyone on the surface ever heard about." Sas's hands had stopped moving across his console entirely. Around the bridge, officers who had served through 3 campaigns without flinching were very carefully not looking at each other. "That is not possible," Vel'tarus said, and heard, for the first time in his career, the thinness in his own voice. "Our scans show no orbital defense. No detection grid. No fleet. You scan what we let you scan." The woman's expression didn't change, but something behind her eyes did, old, and tired, and not unkind. "We've been doing this for a long time, Commander. Long enough to learn that the worst thing a young species can do is let an older one know exactly how strong it's become. So we didn't. We let everyone who came looking find exactly what they expected to find. Mud, spears, 8 billion frightened animals looking up at the sky for the first time. A beat. It's a very convincing performance. We've had centuries to practice it." Vel'tarus's mind, trained across decades to find the angle, the weakness, the lever that turned any conversation into compliance, found nothing to grip. "Why?" he said. "Would a species hide its own strength? Because every civilization that showed strength too early got erased by something bigger before it had the chance to grow into it." Her voice didn't rise, didn't perform grief, and that absence was somehow worse than if it had. "We've watched that happen. More than once. To people we couldn't save in time. So we learned. We got quiet. We got patient. And we got very good at waiting for fleets like yours to arrive, announce themselves, and tell us, politely, exactly how much force it would take to make us kneel. On the tactical display, something changed. Not an attack. Not a single weapon discharge anywhere in the system. Just numbers. Vel'tarus's own fleet readouts. The precise tonnage and shield strength and weapons capacity of all 412 vessels. Updating in real time with annotations that were not his own. Annotations in Combine military shorthand. Annotations that listed, ship by ship, exactly where each vessel's defenses were weakest. Commander Vel'tarus had logged 712 first contact submissions in his 3 centuries of service. Every species followed the same pattern: shock, denial, brief resistance, surrender. He expected nothing different from the small blue world his fleet now orbited. He was wrong. He just didn't know it yet. The compact survey drone that found Earth had filed its report under a designation that would later become a galactic joke: Class-2 Pre-Sentient Domestication Candidate. The drone's logic was simple. The dominant species built no orbital defenses. Their strongest signals were entertainment broadcasts, singing, dancing, arguing over games played with a ball. No weapons platforms. No detected aggression protocols. By every metric the compact used to judge a species' threat level, humanity scored lower than the Moss colonies of Trell 9. So when the HFY, flagship of the 6th Acquisition Fleet, dropped out of slip space above Earth, Vel'tarus expected to spend perhaps 6 hours establishing a collection perimeter before his teams began processing the population for relocation to the breeding habitats on Corvain Station. Humans, the report said, would make excellent companion class servants. Compliant, emotionally expressive, pleasant to look at, by the standards of several compact species who found bilateral symmetry aesthetically pleasing. Vel'tarus stood on the command deck and watched the blue and white world rotate beneath him, utterly unaware that the silence coming from the surface wasn't submission. It was humanity watching him back. "Open a channel," he told his communications officer, a Thessari named Braun who had 3 working eyes and a nervous habit of blinking them out of sync when stressed. Standard first contact protocol. Inform them of acquisition status and provide voluntary compliance instructions. The message went out in 43 human languages, translated by an algorithm that had never once failed to produce calm, comprehensible speech for a frightened species. The reply came back in 11 seconds. It was not calm. It was not in any of the 43 languages. It was a single human voice, male, flat, almost bored, speaking words the translation matrix struggled to parse for context because the literal meaning made no logical sense paired with the tone. "Come down here and find out." Braun's eyes blinked wildly out of sync. "Commander, sensor sweep. I'm reading orbital assets. Hundreds of them. They were there before we arrived. They were waiting." Vel'tarus felt something he hadn't felt in 3 centuries of service. The cold drop of a wrong assumption collapsing beneath him. "Show me," he said. The tactical display bloomed with red markers, satellites that weren't satellites, debris fields that weren't debris, a ring system around Earth's moon that the survey drone had logged as naturally occurring 3 years ago and never rechecked. It wasn't natural. It was a shipyard, and it was already powering up. "Sir," Braun whispered, "they're not surrendering." On the bridge of an older, scarred vessel hidden inside that false ring, a woman named Captain Elena Reyes leaned forward in her chair, watching the alien flagship's heat signature flare across her display like prey realizing too late it had walked into a den. Let's go remind them what a domesticated species actually means when it decides it's done being domesticated. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "Weapons hot. All ships. On my mark."
The projections were not new. He had run them 37 times over 11 months, adjusting variables, stress-testing assumptions, feeding in new intercept data as it arrived from the observation drone stationed at the edges of human space. The numbers changed slightly each time, a percentage point here, a fleet engagement modifier there, but the shape of them never changed. The shape of them was what kept him awake in the long artificial nights of deep space. Elosar watched the holographic columns assemble themselves above the war room table. Casualty estimates, engagement timelines, resource expenditure curves. The mathematics of conquest rendered in cool blue light. "Phase 1 looks acceptable," she said, reading carefully. Initial engagement, outer colonies. 17% fleet attrition. Within tolerance. Keep going. Phase 2. Core system engagement. She paused. 29%. That's higher than the council model but still within Phase 3. She found it. Read it. Read it again. This can't be right. I've checked it 11 times. 44% attrition by Phase 3? She looked up. Commander, we've never sustained losses above 30% in any campaign in recorded Vel'thara history. The Chirati pushed us to 26 and that was considered a generational wound. 44% would take us a century to rebuild from, Vel'tarus said. Yes. Your model must have a flaw. An error in the resistance escalation variable. That's what I thought the first 8 times. He moved to the table, enlarged the Phase 3 column with 2 fingers. The error isn't in the math. The math is describing something real. Something that happens to human resistance capability over time that doesn't happen with any other species we've encountered. He pulled up a secondary overlay, a graph that tracked resistance intensity across the 3 phases, plotted against time. Every other species the Vel'thara had ever faced showed the same basic curve, a spike of initial resistance, then a gradual decline as losses mounted, infrastructure collapsed, and the population made the cold rational calculation that survival mattered more than sovereignty. The human line didn't curve downward. It curved upward. They get worse, Elosar said softly. Not a question. She was staring at the line the way someone stares at something they wish they hadn't seen. The longer the engagement runs, the more dangerous they become. Not because their technology improves, it does, but that's not the primary driver. Because of something that happens to them psychologically over the course of a prolonged conflict. He traced the line with 1 finger without touching the display. Kepler called it consolidation. He meant something specific by it, the point at which a human population stops experiencing a war as a crisis and starts experiencing it as a defining condition. Once they reach that point, the normal pressure mechanisms stop working. Every species reaches accommodation eventually. Not this kind. He straightened. When the Chirati reached accommodation, they sued for terms. When the Myrath reached it, they fragmented, outer systems surrendered independently, the core worlds held out another 30 years, but they held out in isolation, each one alone. That's how species break. You separate the parts and the parts lose the will that the whole had. He looked at the upward curving line. Human history has a different pattern. When you separate the parts remember the whole. They don't fight for survival. They fight for each other. For people they've never met, on planets they've never seen, who share nothing with them except the same species designation. The war room was quiet for a long moment. That's irrational, Elosar said. Completely. No strategic civilization fights that way. No, Vel'tarus agreed. They don't. He walked slowly around the table, the blue light of the projections moving across him. Outside, his fleet held its silence in the dark. 400 ships. The best crews the Vel'thara had ever trained. Soldiers who had never lost a war, never been asked to, never had to develop a psychology for what losing felt like because the mathematics of Vel'thara power had always made losing a theoretical concept rather than a lived experience. He thought about that. He thought about what it meant to have never lost.
We're going to let your entire fleet go home intact, the voice said. Every ship, every soldier, no casualties, no wreckage, nothing to investigate or avenge. You will fly back through the same corridor you came through, and you will deliver one message to whoever sits above you in the combined command structure. What message? Vel'tarus said, and was faintly disgusted to hear that it came out as a request rather than a demand. Tell them Earth surrenders, the voice said. For one disorienting second, something in Vel'tarus's chest loosened. Relief, sharp and unprofessional. The muscle memory satisfaction of a conquest completed by the book after all. Then the voice continued, and the relief curdled into something far colder. Tell them Earth surrenders the same way we always have, Commander. On paper. In words you can carry home and repeat exactly. And tell them what surrender has always meant, every single time another fleet believed it. A final pause, unhurried, absolute. It means you go home thinking you won. And we go back to waiting for whoever comes next, a little more prepared than we were for you. The transmission ended. The screens returned to ordinary tactical readouts, ordinary diagnostic feeds, as though nothing had spoken through them at all. Around the bridge, 412 ships worth of officers sat in a silence that had no precedent in combined military doctrine, no chapter in any manual that told a commander what to do when the enemy had already won by convincing you that you hadn't lost. Vel'tarus looked at the blue-white planet turning peacefully below them, indifferent and unhurried, exactly as it had looked when he arrived 11 hours ago, believing himself its conqueror. "Sas," he said quietly, "set a course home." "And the report, Commander?" Sas's voice had steadied, but something in his eyes hadn't. "What do we tell them about Earth?" Vel'tarus watched the planet a moment longer, thinking of a Voth wreck buried in a forest for 8 centuries, of a species patient enough to let 400 warships believe they'd been merciful. "We tell them the truth," he said. "We tell them Earth surrendered." He turned away from the viewport and did not look back. "We just don't tell them what that word means here."